Well, good morning again from my home, and I want to make sure that everyone's okay. Here's a shout out to Miss San Martin, Miss Zapatanga, Miss Lopez, Miss Bravo, um, Miss Osowu, all of you, Miss Ivanessen. I hope everyone's doing well. Antion, here's to you. And yes, you can send things on Gmail. If you can't, send them through Edmodo, but try to try to submit things through Edmodo first. Okay. Again, just to pick up where I left off yesterday, the revolutions of 1848 were a political and social response to industrialization. Industrialization changed the rules of the economic game, mobilized a large labor pool, a large working class, and that this working class began to make itself felt in the political and social arena. The revolutions of 1848 began in France, February of 1848, and then spread to the rest of Europe. It was, in a way, I've heard it said that the revolutions of 1848 really, extended Metternich's little quip about France. That is, that when France sneezes, all of Europe catches cold. Um, Basically, what happened politically was that when France sneezed, all of Europe caught viral pneumonia. Well, it's unfortunate even to say that today, but I guess that's probably closer to what happened politically in Europe. As I said, socialist and radical Democrats, Republicans came to power initially in France in the provisional government that took power after driving Louis Philippe, the Orleanist or July monarch, off the throne. And what happened afterwards, though, was rather unexpected because once you had universal male suffrage, which is essentially the principal demand of revolutionaries in 1848, it was once you implemented universal male suffrage, once everyone got the vote, what really happened was that most of the vote favored conservatives, that is, traditional monarchists. And that this was the case by April of 1848 in France. There was a restoration of conservative order, and by June you had a revolution put down by the military, a revolution of workers who had been attracted to Paris as a result of Louis Blanc's creation of the labor workshops, public works programs. You remember Louis Blanc being an early socialist, and he was also Minister of Labor under the provisional government. Well, his program of labor workshops were shut down, and the workers who had been attracted in very large numbers to Paris hit the streets and rebelled. But this time, instead of succeeding, they were put down by the military. A lot of them were killed. A lot of them were sent to Algeria, which was a French colony. What then happened was that there was an election or campaign for president, and it resulted on December 10th in the election of Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. As I said yesterday, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte used his name, used modern techniques of campaigning, which reflected the industrial framework that was developing even in France, and France was not in a major industrial state. But even there, you had the effects of industrialization felt in the presidential campaign as Louis Napoleon used the railway system to make campaign stops all over the country, mobilize support, also deal with the issues of growing cities as a result of industrial workers, and the ills of those cities, that is crime, poverty, Louis Napoleon was very effectively able to address these and use his name to win an overwhelming victory, 70% of the vote, and become president of France. He was the first president of France, the Second Republic, and that lasted until 1851, when the conservative legislature tried to roll back universal male suffrage. They wanted to limit it and roll it back to earlier situation. Louis Napoleon staged a coup, overthrew the legislature, and then established, by 1852, established the Second Empire. And he crowned he was crowned as Napoleon III. He started the Second Empire. He was very effective in dealing with the initial opposition, and also began some interesting programs. He attracted a wide constituency. That is, a lot of different groups supported Louis Napoleon. Marx makes the point that the peasantry supported Louis Napoleon because he eased credit and he represented order and stability, which was the new nationalism. The new conservatives were, after Louis Napoleon, were to take his model and run with it. That is, his model of mass politics, some progressive, or at least some recognition of the needs of mass society. That is, Louis Napoleon established free public primary education throughout France. He extended credit to promote economic growth. He also attracted the conservatives by restoring the Pope. The Pope had to flee Rome, and Giuseppe Mazzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi had established the Roman Republic. Louis Napoleon, even while he was president, overthrew the Roman Republic and re-established the Pope's rule over Rome. He did that in order to get more support from the conservative Catholic groupings in France, and he was very effective in doing that. He also used the kind of a nationalist, imperialist foreign policy in Europe to gain the support of more nationalist, maybe Republican groups, by driving the Austrians out of Italy and allowing Italy to unify. Remember, Italy was not a unified state. It was divided among many, many different states. Louis Napoleon was able to drive out the Austrians in an alliance with Camillo Cavour, who was the unifier of Italy, and he was able to gain support from nationalists throughout the continent who opposed the order established after Napoleon I's defeat at Vienna in 1815. Louis Napoleon also had fought the Crimean War, which was a very, very important war in the 1850s, and he was able to gain the support of the British through this war, where France and Britain